Welcome to the Global Discussion, a discussion with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name is Simon Hodgkins. Today I'm joined by the one and only Joanne Sweeney. Joanne, you're very welcome to the show. Let's begin. Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to for our audience and just help set the context. And I've got some great questions I want to put to you today.
Well, Simon, it's 25 years since I started my career in communications. And back then I was learning shorthand and touch typing because I was training to be a journalist. And fast forward 25 years, we're now in the AI era. So I've evolved my skill set right through the digital revolution, the social revolution, and now into the AI revolution. But one thing that I haven't done is I haven't strayed out of my lane. And that's something that I'm really grateful that I haven't done. I've kept in my niche, which is communications, it's media, it's marketing. Um, and honestly, I would say that when I graduated from the University of Galway with journalism and PR, I said to myself, okay, I've left this institution now, but there's going to be some young guns coming behind me. And something in that moment just made me think, you know what, I'm going to stay ahead of the curve so that I'm not obsolete. My skills are always up to date and that I can be at the leading edge. And I'm really thankful 25 years on that I've committed to that. So from broadcast journalist to PR practitioner, and I've been self-employed as a media communications trainer consultant for the last 15. I've only ever had four jobs, Simon.
Well, along the way, you've collected an awful lot of experience. You've worked with some big brands, some big companies. You've spoke on stages from TED through to, the biggest global brands. You've won lots of awards. You've about 11 or 12, I've lost count in terms of your professional qualifications at this stage. So it's great that we can talk about this, and we'll get into AI in a moment or two. But I wanted to talk, first of all, a bit about the public sector, because you've done quite a bit of work there, haven't you? And that's gone through a lot of change, continues to go through a lot of change. Of course, AI is impacting that too. But you also run sort of events for this, don't you? Training as well for this. And it's really important when we're looking at things like government agencies, press offices, political teams, you name it. So what made you sort of head that way? Because you kind of niched down in that a good bit, didn't you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, about a decade ago, I realized that in order for me to have a global footprint and really maximize and take advantage of the world of digital, which I was teaching other brands and businesses to do, I asked myself, so Joanne, what are you going to do about it? And actually, it probably coincided with them being fired by Bill Cullen on The Apprentice. I got to the final, last woman standing, and he said, Joanne, if this was a normal series, and we were hiring somebody because in my year it was investing in a company. He said, I would have hired you in on the first week. You're a great salesperson and a great PR woman. He said, but the problem is, he said, I cannot invest in you because you are your business and you're not scalable. And you know what? I mean, he was right. Let's face it. I was running a marketing agency in Donegal, and but it stuck with me. And so over the years that followed, I said, how can I scale? And with scaling, as you know, if you want to scale up online, you've got to niche down. And I got a mentor and I spent about a year and right throughout this mastermind, everybody was selling and creating and ideating, and I was stuck. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And it was actually in the last month that I was driving from Donegal to Galway and I pulled in on the dual carriageway in Sligo and I said, I've actually had an aha moment. And I said the journalist in me got into journalism because I had a huge interest in public interest messaging, to be that arbiter of the truth between government, public sector, and the citizen. And we're all citizens, we all have skin in the game. And I never really cared for marketing commercial brands, even though I worked with them and I was happy for the business, but it just never got me going. And my aha moment was I am going to upskill and work with government and public sector who exist in the public interest, but they need to really step up their communications and be more transparent because transparency is the currency of the digital age. And once that penny dropped, there was no stopping me. In 8 weeks, I had launched a sub brand. My company is Digital Training Institute Limited. I'd launched Public Sector Marketing Institute. I'd created the Public Sector Digital Marketing Summit, Ireland's first for that sector. I began writing my book, Public Sector Marketing Pros, and launched a podcast, The Public Sector Marketing Show. And so that's almost a decade ago. And that's one of the smartest business moves I've ever made. Not only did it align with my mission and values, but the journalist in me and the PR practitioner, I was able to speak their language immediately. And then with that little bit of sub branding and positioning in the marketplace, I actually very quickly made inroads and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've now 3 books in that sphere, no, numerous events. And now I work with government and public sector agencies across the world.
You sure do. And I just want to backtrack a little bit because for our international audience, you mentioned The Apprentice with Bill Cullen, and that's sort of like the Irish Apprentice show on TV, big deal in its time. Alan Sugar, of course, does the UK one with The Apprentice. The American audience may be a bit more familiar with Shark Tank, but what a great thing for Bill Cullen to say at the time. Again, he was a very large business profile in his time. And I suppose from there, the journalistic endeavors and the PR, and of course the public sector mix seems to have been that magic catalyst that really started things going for you. And you mentioned the books, of course. And I wanted to ask you about those because you've got a couple of editions already of the one that you started with, which I think was the Public Sector Marketing Pro, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But you also have one on social media. And the little bird tells me you might have something new coming out, something exciting. So tell us a bit about being an author.
So I love writing. I mean, I'm the eternal student. And when I got homework and for a weekend we were giving an essay, everybody else was moaning and I was celebrating. So I was that annoying nerd in the classroom. So I've always had a love of writing. And being self-employed, you really can be the creator of your own destiny. And that's why I love running my own little small business in the west of Ireland because I can reinvest it into products. But it's not just for the love of writing, because I could do that as a hobby. Books are really good for market positioning. They give you authority. And, people would ask me, how much do you make from your book, Joanne? And I'm like, often I hand my book to people because the book in the right hands can lead to valuable work. And so the very first book that I wrote was on the back of my master's in digital marketing. And I did a master's in digital marketing on the role of social media in the Irish police force and Garda Síochána. And I was the first ever person to be allowed in and to get such insight. But I had so much information collected that I had no place in an academic study that within 6 months I turned it into a book. And that was called Social Media Under Investigation, Law Enforcement and the Social Web, which led me then a couple of months later to keynoting at a Chiefs of Police conference in Phoenix, Arizona. So the conversion of the book was immediate. And I wrote it just because I had all this information. But again, a penny began to drop, going, oh, this is quite interesting. And then policing agencies began to reach out to me, and I had PR clients in policing. And again, the journalist in me, I covered the Morris Tribunal in Donegal, which was a public inquiry into allegations of wrongdoing against some members of the force in that county. I covered the Savile inquiry, which was a public inquiry into Bloody Sunday in Derry. I'm from Donegal in Border County. So I had kind of skin in the game and again, understand the nuance, the language, the politics, the policy. And then when I got into public sector marketing, I was like, okay, the book. So Public Sector Marketing Pro, the first edition, and that went all around the world. It became mandatory reading. It became textbook in the University of San Francisco. And so the discoverability and the visibility that it gave me was amazing. Then COVID hit. And I said, okay, the public sector being behind in the digital curve, well, that changed overnight because of COVID, because we were all locked in and they needed to step out. And so I wrote a second edition called Public Sector Marketing Pro in the post pandemic age. And that feels like a lifetime ago. away, Simon, doesn't it? And so the books have been great aids, but also they really help me distill my knowledge. And then I turn the books into accredited courses that I can teach online. And so, yeah, it's just been wonderful. And so I'm very delighted that I have a gift of writing as well.
Well, you sure do. And what's cooking in the authoring world? What are you working on now, Joanne?
Well, you're going to get somewhat of an exclusive for your listeners here because I literally signed off only yesterday on my fourth book called AI Playbook. So if I thought there was urgency in the post-pandemic age, little did I know I'd be writing a book 3 short years later because all of that has changed again. And that's I guess, the challenging thing about my industry because if I sit back, I will be obsolete. Um, but that commitment to stay ahead, 2 years ago, I began practicing and leaning in on AI. And with 2 years practice and kind of research and writing and working with clients and writing courses, I then decided to turn all of that into a book because there's so much fear. So it's 50,000 words, 12 chapters. It literally will bring you from AI zero to AI hero. Sounds like a big promise, but honestly, that's what I want it to deliver. So it covers everything from policy, ethics, the technology, the science behind AI, the tools, how to apply the tools, how to create AI use cases specifically for marketing and communications, and then how to scale it in an organization. And interestingly, this book is not limited to government and public sector because AI is ubiquitous, but the language in the book and the examples are interchangeable between corporate and public sector. And that publishes on the 12th of September at a launch in Dublin. However, next week, my US audience are going to see me in person at the Planet Hollywood Hotel in Las Vegas, and they will get to hold the book for the first time. And I will be delivering a workshop on the first day and a keynote on the second day on the teachings from the book. And actually, I'm really excited about this book. It's my best one yet. You know, authors write books and they go, "Oh, I think it's okay." This one I love, but let's see what the market thinks.
Well, congratulations on penning the new book. It sounds really exciting. And I love how you're sort of talking about it's almost like a constant um, adaptation. You have to be agile enough. I know that's a word that gets bandied around a lot, but you're almost sort of reinventing things. And whether it was COVID or whether it's this AI wave that we're all on, um, making yourself relevant, I think you were kind of hinting at there, right? Because otherwise you do get left behind. And I was going to ask you, but I think you've answered it. Who is this book aimed at? Because it's kind of broadening your audience a little bit, isn't it? It's kind of got more of a wider
Yeah.
audience in mind. So congratulations on that. And I'm sure the big event that you've got coming up will be hugely successful. And thanks for sharing the news here on the global discussion. I really appreciate it. I wanted to ask you if I can though about something else that I know you've been involved in, and it's kind of sort of weaves through in what you were saying though, because you've got the training sort of business, you're authoring books, you're speaking on global stages, you're winning awards left, right, and centre, which is all great. But then you have this public sector marketing institute as well, right? Could you tell me a bit about that? Because you're sort of CEO expertise there, right?
Yeah, and what that is it's really creating knowledge products that can help my peers, so marketing and communications professionals, really progress up the ladder. And that's my goal because when you're working in that environment, it can be tricky and very competitive to get promotion. Training opportunities can be limited. And also, what my audience have said to me, when we go and look for training, it's very commercial orientated. You think about it, they're not selling a product. They don't want to make money. They want to gain trust, credibility, and public buy-in. And actually, when I wrote the first book, I was invited into Meta's headquarters in Dublin, and they'd flown in their government and public sector team from across EMEA. And one guy said to me, he actually showed me the LinkedIn review that he wrote for the book, and he said, I did not realize there was a language for public sector marketing, but you've actually created it. And I was like, okay, I didn't realize it either, but I kind of did realize it because I was getting all this inbound calls, emails, requests for work because I'd landed on something. And actually, if you Google or even if you go into ChatGPT or any of the LLMs and you put in, who is an expert in public sector marketing, you get my work. So it's a reminder that authority, we can all write anything on the internet, but you have to demonstrate and illustrate authority. And how we do that is with our published work. And I'm going to say, and sounds a bit boasty, and Irish people don't like to boast about themselves, but I spent a week in Harvard in July doing an executive program on AI and public policy. And one of the big things that I took away was that original content has never been so valuable. There are major corporations that are paying people for their original content. And I was like, wow, creators think that AI is going to take us away. But in actual fact, we are the people that is going to drive the AI era. So all of my books and podcasts and webinars and training materials and white papers on the internet have now got even greater currency in the AI age. And that was something that I didn't really know, Simon, when I went to Harvard, and I knew I was well versed, but it was a huge takeaway. And the other thing that they said to us, really simple, and I actually had most of the book written, but I added an extra chapter and some extra words when I came back. Such was my kind of new inspiration. They said, it's really simple. AI plus me equals better. And I was like, that's genius, Harvard people. That's genius. And that's what we need to remember. I've got all that experience, just like you. I've been in boardrooms, I've had thousands of conversations. I understand nuance and context, even from just body language. AI doesn't have that. But if we combine what we bring, our zone of genius, with AI, that's scalability. That's what Bill Cullen was looking for, right? Off me in 2011. And maybe I'll be able to catch up with Bill in some stage and, tell him what I'm doing. But yeah, just that authenticity, that authority, and that visibility of your work, bring that because we're now competing with the bots that can spit out books in minutes. Took me months to write that book and hundreds of hours, painstaking edits. But I'm feeling really confident that my place is here and for now. And I really want your listeners to understand that too, because there's so much fear out there.
Yeah, and it's really refreshing to hear that fresh take on a perspective because we do hear the sort of doomsday scenario a lot, don't we? And yet what you're championing is actually, well, two things if I can. You've kind of got this flywheel effect happening now, haven't you? Because you've got the books and the published white papers and the training sessions and everything that you've been doing for years is almost compounding now. It's helping, right? And as you say, you're getting picked out as the expert, whether that's through published works or other places on the internet. And the LLMs are finding you, and they're sort of recommending you in the same way that Google does, with keywords and things. But also, as well as that, I think what you're saying about being able to produce that fresh content, and you as the human with this AI, it's almost an unbeatable formula, isn't it? Right now, it seems to be the way to go. And I would echo what you said about there are companies paying for new content because if everybody's got similar tools and everybody's producing similar outputs, I mean, look, it's getting better every week, right? But there is something quite special and magical about that genuine, new, fresh human angle on a story, on news, on information, on sharing. And I think that's coming across loud and clear because you've kind of got all these pillars and foundations. And what I want to ask you is, um, was that the same reason that you decided to start the podcast at the time? Was it just a lucky coincidence? Because in the same way you said, well, I might just hand my book to somebody because it's a great sort of calling card and it can lead to something else. Do you see podcasting the same as that? Do you see, I know you've got like, for example, a free AI masterclass coming up next month. And I know you do that from time to time. Do you see that as all being part of that strategy then, Joanne? Is that purposely the way that you go about things now?
Yeah, I was with a sales professionals a couple of months ago, and I was talking about content marketing as my sales strategy as being a small business owner. And I said, but my method and my mission is lead with value. I don't gatekeep. I am very generous with my knowledge. And also, I want people to see me in action. So the free webinars, having a podcast where I can bring in great guests, ask great questions, produce original content that's helpful, then when somebody is in the market to buy, then I'll be top of mind, you know? And what I have found using that strategy of more than a decade is that when somebody reaches out, they've already made their mind up that they want to work with me, right? Now it's about availability, the concept of what it might look like, and then price. So it's narrowing the audience, it's vetting the audience, it's turning cold audiences into warm audiences. And when I heard, Hans Peter say at Harvard, people with original content, their currency has gone up, I was like, this is my day. My day is coming, And like even the conversation that we're having now, I'm like having this chat and I'm saying things to you that maybe I've not said before. You know what I mean? And you're bringing me to a new audience, and um people are learning from you. So leading with value. And I think I come from a radio background, a broadcast journalist, and I'm a huge fan of audio. I listen to audiobooks. My alarm is Morning Ireland and RTE Radio 1. I love podcasts. I can multitask with them. And I think the the media that is audio is intimate, it's trusted, it's very accessible and highly searchable now, and so I have now a new podcast, AI 6, where I teach people AI in 6 minutes a day. And I actually have a podcast studio in my home office. Um, and it's about credibility, trust, but also showing your audience who you are, because we can get anything from the LLMs now and it's flat, it's soulless. So we need to show up more than ever as the human self. And I think our work and what you're doing here is actually going to grow in a world of AI, because people are going to look for something a bit fresh.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think what was said to you in Harvard, it was almost like a light bulb moment, wasn't it? Where you go, well, of course, my currency's gone up massively because of all this. And great to hear what you're saying about audio. I was only talking to somebody this week about how it's just, we all know it's such an intimate medium, isn't it? Because it goes straight in here and you
Mhm.
have somebody's full attention for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour in some cases. And I think there's something magical about audio done well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great. And people need to go and check out all of that good stuff.
And what I'd love to say here is people always say to me, because I'm a digital marketer, right? And they're like,
Right.
oh, how many podcast downloads do you have? Like, how many followers do you have? Have you gone viral on TikTok? And I'm like, I want to have about 100 customers a year. And I know how to convert those customers. So it's all relative. Do not chase virality. Chase engagement, chase relevance, because that how many people do we watch online and they're creating content and they've got all this attention, but are they monetizing, and do they own that audience? Like I own my audience on my podcast, on my email list, the traffic coming to my website. If the channels change their strategy, I'm not at a loss. I'm not going to get highly worried. So be really discerning with your numbers. And I know how many numbers I want. Like I want to get to 10,000 downloads on my podcast. I have 6,000 on my list who are all warm. They've all come through that list based on having engaged in some way with me. I'll sell the book to the list. I sell to the list. So just be discerning. Don't chase virality, chase relevance.
I think it's such an important point because I was only talking recently about a similar example where I was saying that people get really caught up in the traditional stats, right? Which to some degree can be a little meaningless in some areas. And you kind of get on this treadmill of, well, have to do better, got to get more of these, got to get more eyeballs, got to get. But it's kind of shifted a little bit, hasn't it? People are now being served by algorithms that's sending you more of the stuff that you like, as opposed to necessarily who you're connecting with or how many people are downloading your things. And that virality can happen a lot more easier now on some of the newer platforms than it did in the past. But I like what you're saying because the point I was making recently is that if you were, say, for example, putting on a show, you're a singer or a comedian or whatever, and you booked a venue and you sold 100 tickets to it and 100 people turned up, 100 people in a room looks pretty impressive. If you got 1,000 people to come to a gig, you'd be pretty impressed by that. And that's what some of these mediums are, 1,000 people reading the book or 10,000 people downloading a podcast. It's a big deal. But as you're saying, you're only after a certain number of people to convert who become true connections because you're offering that value, is what I'm hearing, Joanne.
Yeah.
And by providing value first, people sort of gravitate towards you, I think, a bit more, don't they? Because it's not a hard sell. It's like, here, this might help you, like your AI podcast, come and just give me 6 minutes. I'll show you something today. It's a great value trade, isn't it? And I really like that. So thank you so much indeed for sharing that approach. It's great to see. Now, before we run out of time, I do like to ask the people on this show, um, what's on their radar. So obviously you've got a big event coming up in the States. You're going to be out promoting the book, I'm sure, left, right, and center. But when you think ahead from your business perspective, when you go, well, what does the next year look like for me? What am I trying to do? Or where do I want to go? Do you look at it that way? Do you take each day as it comes? Do you think a bit longer term? How does that work in your world, Joanne?
Yeah, I'm very goal orientated. And what I'm looking ahead to now is turning my knowledge of AI actually into AI products. So what I'm currently doing, another exclusive for you, is I am working on AIJ. So AIJ is an AI assistant that has been trained in 15 years of my work, all my books, all my podcasts, all my hundreds of hours of trainings, all my strategies for clients, all of my webinars, and she is going to be the virtual me. So my clients who are in like my public sector marketing accelerator, which is, 12-month subscription, they get all of my accredited courses, they will have AIJ at work. So they'll say, hey, I can't get this meta ad approved. Why not? Then based on all the knowledge bank that I have, I'll be able to tell them. So that's one thing. And the second thing that I'm working on is more of a bigger product that could be white labeled, where again I turn all of my knowledge into something that can be dropped into an IT system locally on a server within government and public sector. Because remember, they're very nervous about the big LLMs and data. So that's a medium term project, but with AIJ maybe coming as a pilot towards the end of the year.
Exciting. Like that. So you've got to the point where you just have to clone yourself at this stage, Joanne, right? That's
Well,
the
yes, I still have Bill Collins words
Yeah,
in my ears.
yeah. I
Your
mean,
business is you.
yeah, but isn't it great that you can put all that research, all that sort of, I'm going to say blood, sweat, and tears that you've poured into it to get to this point, it becomes such a valuable resource. Back to that currency word again, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
really well. Look, unfortunately, Joanne, that's going to bring us to the end of our time together today. I want to thank everybody around the world who's watching or listening to these episodes. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, do all the usual things we need you to do. Go out and check out what Joanne's doing. And if people want to find out about the new book, the AI Playbook, catch you at one of your, webinars or online events or speaking gigs, get involved in the new things that you've coming down the pipeline, where's the best place to point them to, Joanne? Is it your website? Is it LinkedIn? Where do you want people to go to find out a bit more?
Go to LinkedIn. I really love LinkedIn because it's
Okay.
interactive, it's conversational. Love people sliding into my DMs. I mean, you're there all the time, Simon, and we have conversations and now we're here. So just check out Joanne Sweeney on LinkedIn. I should come up first. And if you're on your favorite podcast platform, check out AI6.
Well, thanks very much indeed. And look, I hope people join me back here for some more conversations with creatives and leaders and thinkers just like Joanne. Joanne, thanks for being on the show. It's been great to talk to you again today.
Thank you, Simon.